Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Klein. I'm the Director of P20 Initiatives at Northern Illinois University, and this is another presentation for our Fall 2020 P20 Network meeting. We're hosting this meeting virtually because of the restrictions around ensuring everybody's safe with COVID-19 out there, and we are super excited to bring you another one of the videos, the presentations in our college and career readiness area of focus. So we've got a very special guest here from Heartland Community College. Alauna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do there first.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Alauna McGee. I am the Director of Early College Opportunities at Heartland. I have been at the helm of managing Heartland's secondary education partnerships for about 7 years, and I have really been enjoying the work of enhancing dual credit opportunities throughout Illinois District 540.
Well, you guys have done some really awesome work there, and I'm excited to share it. I'm going to give a little shout out here, Alauna's t-shirt. Alauna, you want to tell us about your t-shirt? Because I think we'll see that when we pull a website up in just a few moments too.
Well, I love swag. So I'm always asking my supervisor every year, well, how much money in my budget can I devote towards swag? So this is just one iteration of our logos. It's actually the prior iteration, but I love branding. I love marketing. I think it's a huge piece of recruitment efforts, and so that parents and students can kind of understand what it is. And so this is just one of our many pieces of swag, that we give out to parents, students, as well as our secondary education partners.
So you guys have branded all of the early college opportunities as College Now, correct?
Well, we have a Now Suite, Jason. Okay, so we have Ready Now, we have College Now, we have Degree Now, and so when I applied for this job, I had to give a campus-wide presentation to let people know kind of what my plan was going to be for marketing, branding, recruitment. And so I want to let you in on a little secret that the acronym that I kind of used for now was New Opportunities Waiting. And so I'm pretty adamant about keeping the now in all of our early college opportunities, because I do believe that there are always new opportunities waiting for us to leverage.
Well, that is an awesome backstory, and it's awesome that it's bigger than just the early college. And College Now does, to me, and I agree with you on, I think the marketing pieces can be so overlooked and make such a huge difference with capturing people's attention and giving a certain mindset to things. And College Now, that certainly resonates with me as not only an educator, but a parent of high school age people. And that's awesome. That when I think about my former students who are in high school right now, my own children who are in high school with those former students, I love that. College Now, that's awesome. So thanks for sharing that. So there's a couple of things we want to talk about. The original purpose of this video, and still one of the main purposes of it, is to talk about the great work that Heartland and its sender school districts are doing together around professional development plans. We've just had another presentation with Jenny Parker from Northern Illinois University about dual credit endorsements and dual credit teacher licensure and credentialing. And so this is to dive in a little bit further and more specifically to those professional development plans. One of the points, Alauna, that you made to me in our conversation prior to the presentation is it actually starts before that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let you talk about the bigger scope of how you work through dual credit opportunities with your sender districts. And then we'll come back around to the specifics of the professional development plan. So
awesome.
There we are, annual course selection. Tell us about this.
Perfect. So when I first began at Heartland was partnering with, I think, about maybe 7 high schools and offering just really just a handful of courses. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of meeting with partners, their existing partners, and then traveling all around District, 540 to figure out, well, what's happening with those partners, those schools that are not partnering with us? What's going on with that? How can we be serving them? One of the things that I noted was that there were no standard processes or procedures kind of in place. And really at that time, the program wasn't that big. And so certainly there maybe just wasn't a need for it, but I wanted to right away kind of put some organization behind it. My second bachelor's is in management and organizational leadership, so I'll give you a little bit of frame of reference for how my mind works, right away. Yep. And so one of the main things I knew we needed to do was guide our secondary education partners through a course selection process. And so one of the very first things I instituted was this course selection process window. So right now, as I was sharing with you a little bit ago, if schools want to partner with us for the next academic year, they had to submit all of their course requests to us during the prior academic year. So September 30th is that deadline for our high school partners every year. We give them this course selection guide that lists their pre-approved courses that they can select. So you can see right there, we have the success education pathway, general education pathway, and the career technical education pathway. And so when they click on those, they see right away, oh, okay, that's what's in these pathways. These are what's available to us. We have little notes about instructor qualifications and things of that nature. We list the courses, the credit hours, the maximum capacities that can be in the courses, and any prereqs or placement requirements. And so they're able to access those documents for each one of our avenues, if you will. So that was one of the most critical things, because some of our schools just didn't know what was available. How can we partner with you all? And then what I didn't want to do, or what I'd like to avoid, was having them just kind of throw darts in the dark and see what sticks, or where does it land? Well, can we offer philosophy? Well, why do you want to offer philosophy, right? So we give them kind of like this menu to choose from. And right away, I started to see, the wheels turning with the secondary education schools in our area that were not partnering with us, because now they had a frame of reference. They had a place they could go to and say, okay, let's think about this, and maybe let's start here. So they get a form that they can submit to us every year. And in that form, it pre-populates the pre-approved courses that they'll see. That form will pre-populate for them. And so that's not available directly on this site, because each form is custom. We use Google Drive to communicate with our partners, because most of them are Google schools. And so what you have pulled up there now is their guide for their course request form. So if you want to stay right there, it gives you a really good look at what their form looks like. They have a section that will list their current course offerings if they're already partnering with us. So right there, that section would be completely filled with whatever they're offering this academic year. And all they would need to do is note in the recurring column whether or not they want to run that course or offer that course again with that instructor for the upcoming year. The next section is going to be any pre-approved courses. So if they had some pre-approved courses before, but they didn't run those courses, but they want those courses to be back on the table, that's what that section is for. The next one is going to be any new pre-approved College Now course requests. So that goes back to that course selection guide I was telling you about. That will populate for them. So that all they have to do is click a little drop-down menu and they can populate those. Cool. We also give them the opportunity to choose courses just from our standard online Heartland course catalog. We strongly recommend that they stick to the pre-approved courses that have already been vetted by our academic administrators. But from time to time, we do have some schools that have some unique situations. So we want to leave room for that as well. So that's what that process looks like every year. And that's what all of our partners, all 20 of our partners, engage in this particular process every year. So it's during that process really that we find out if they request a new course with a new instructor, they had to submit a College Now prospective faculty form that'll give us a little bit, it's almost like an application, but not really. Yeah, if you scroll down, there we go. They have to submit a prospective faculty form. They have to submit all of their collegiate transcripts to us, and any additional applicable certifications and things of that nature. I'm thinking specifically for our career technical, some of our career technical courses, they may have some special certifications. We request a copy of all of that documentation by September 30th of the prior year in which they will be scheduled to teach. So that all kind of funnels into my office. And then we, myself and my assistant, we go about the business of then reorganizing that according to our academic areas. So whatever fits under liberal arts and social sciences, we then group that in our internal SharePoint system. And then our liberal arts and social sciences liaison, they know where to go in and access that information so they can see what's been requested, and they can either approve or decline the request at that time. They would also access this form and any transcripts and things of that nature. If they decline a request, they'll insert a little comment for me to say, this instructor is not qualified to teach COM 101. However, we note that they have X number of graduate hours on their transcript, and so they would just need 9 more or what have you. That's exactly where this PD plan situation comes in at.
Perfect. So let's hold that thought for 1 second, because one thing I want to mention, and of course many people who may be viewing this video will know this, but as we think back to the last presentation that Jenny Parker gave to us, one of the things we pointed out was that the dual credit endorsement from the Illinois State Board of Education follows a different pattern than really any other endorsement in the world of education licensure in the state of Illinois. And what we explained in that video is that it's because you're really being hired by 2 different institutions. And this is really the perfect example why you're already hired by the school district, but because it's dual credit, you are also being hired effectively by the post-secondary institution, in this case, the community college. And so they want to ensure that you have the requirements that they're looking for to teach that class. And that's where things get tricky with the dual credit licensure and what makes it different and unique from other educator licensure in Illinois. So that's great. This is a very well-defined process. It makes me think about my work as an administrator in planning for the following school year. Oftentimes that work would really ramp up in October. And, you know, as I think about, and for teachers, a lot of times I would have teachers coming up, the week before winter break was a popular week for a teacher to say, you know, here's what I'm thinking I want to do next year. And when we think about the timeline you've put out here, this would really accelerate that. And it would be something where, as an administrator in the Heartland district, I would be saying to teachers really at the opening institute day in a school district, if you're thinking about something a little different for next year, if you're interested in dual credit, we're going to be starting those conversations no later than Labor Day to make sure we're ready to file our paperwork to Heartland for new and additional courses we want to be offering the following year. So it is very clearly articulated, very well organized. I see your background with your bachelor's degree. It was very, very well done. And so that's awesome. That's awesome.
Another note that I'd like to make here, Jason, is that our partners come to visit us every year in September. So usually the Friday after Labor Day is when we have our annual high school partner meeting. And so we go through every facet of the process, and we have all counselors there. We have we have counselors, we have principals, we have curriculum directors and things of that nature, because every year they want to know about course selection. That drives everything. And so we host this annual partnership meeting with our high schools every year. We separate our career centers out because they're on a different timeline, but I think that's been critical, the fact that we host that meeting every year and they come together. And so I love when I see counselors sitting at the table together or principals sitting at the table together saying, you know, okay, well, what are you offering or how are you offering that? And trying to figure out how they can collaborate really to make sure that all students are getting every early college opportunity available to them.
That's awesome. And there you're talking about collaboration across high schools, for example, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's awesome. And you guys hosting that meeting annually and on that time frame does help keep the school districts on track with your bigger time frame. I mean, I think about a situation where, well, I mean, this year it goes without saying, but in any year you have a new principal or a new superintendent or a new head of counseling or curriculum, and any one of those people being new to the role, if they are not used to this kind of system, especially if they're coming from either maybe a teaching position or outside the Heartland district, that would really help them clue in and say, oh, okay, wait, I didn't know that this was the time frame. I got to get moving on this now. And they still have time to do that, and you're there to support them then throughout that process. So
absolutely.
Having that meeting and making it annual that's awesome. That's really great. So let's dive into the professional development plan. Now we have a series of forms that you have shared. Where would you like to start with form number 1?
Yeah, let's go right over to the beginning, because I think, well, not just because it matches the shirt that I'm wearing today, but because it is the very first iteration of where we thought, you know, what we thought we needed to do with this form. And so I wanted to show this form in particular because it was just
Alauna, I'm sorry to cut you off, but can I actually, as I'm thinking about this, I want to insert one thing. In case people didn't watch Jenny's video or they're still confused, can you tell us about, again, give us the scenario of when a teacher would need to engage with the support of their administrators in their high school in this professional development plan? Can you give us that scenario? Where does this come into play? So for example, I have a background as an undergrad in history and Spanish, took a whole bunch of political science classes. I don't have a graduate degree in any of those things, right? So I've been teaching for a while, and if my principal comes to me and says, we'd really like to offer this, are you interested in teaching it? What are the things I would need? And how does this form come into play potentially if I have some of those things, but not all of those things?
Perfect. So as we kind of just talked about, that course request form that our partners get, in that new section is where they're going to be telling us that they want to offer something new and that they think they have a prospective instructor. Upon our internal review, which we take about a 2-week period from the September 30th deadline, to give them back a course confirmation or course approval document. On that document to each partner would be some listings or some commentary about what's been approved and maybe what hasn't been approved and why. So at the point that we receive an indication from a school that they want to offer something and they have put forth an instructor who doesn't meet qualifications, when they get their approval form back from us about 2 weeks later, they'll see commentary right at the bottom of that form that says, you know, we would be so excited to have Jason join us, right, to teach these courses. And our internal review revealed that he has this, but doesn't have this, right? And so now we're getting into the qualifying conditions. So if you look right at this first form, the qualifying conditions here, you see qualifying condition number A is that the instructor has a master's degree and has earned at least 9 graduate hours in the discipline that they're currently or expecting to teach in. And so that's qualifying condition A. Qualifying condition B is going to be that the instructor has a bachelor's degree with a minimum of 18 graduate hours in the discipline that they are currently teaching or expect to teach. And that they are enrolled in a discipline-specific, master's degree program or graduate level degree program, and agree to demonstrate their progress towards completion. And so this would be something that would be kind of the next step for them when they get their course approval form. They'll also see this form or different iteration of this PD plan so that they can see that, oh yes, we're willing to work, with Jason to become outright qualified, but here are our terms of agreement, if you will.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And so then is there a conversation that takes place around this with the teacher? Are there other people from the school district involved? Like, how does that actually happen? Is it a series of emails? Is there a phone call? What happens around it?
So Google Drive is where we post everything. Our partners are accustomed to going into
Hmm.
their drives. And so there's a folder for every academic year that they've partnered with us. And so right now they're all, since today is the deadline for them to submit their AY 21-22, I can tell you they're all in their folders. I've been looking at them in that AY 21-22 folder. So we put document there. And so whoever is responsible, which is different at every single school, whoever is responsible for that course selection piece sees the document and then is responsible for having that conversation back with their faculty. Because at that point, we don't really know the instructor. We don't know what their conversations are like. We're just providing them with information and letting them know how we're willing and ready and able to support them if they want to proceed in that direction. And then if necessary, that person will come back to my office, say it's the
Hmm.
curriculum director. That person will come back and say, hey, would you connect us with your, English faculty, or would you connect us with, can we have a little bit more information? At that point, we would then make the connection between our secondary education partner and any of our academic areas for furthering that conversation.
And so as administrators are thinking about timelines with this, both on the community college side and on the school district side, those conversations are typically going to happen the second half of August or October, excuse me, because you have that 2-week time frame after September 30th where you're evaluating what they've sent in. Then in mid-October, as a school district, they would receive back that, and then we can get together with that teacher. And that does mean, for example, that in a lot of cases, teachers are going to be in a good position to take a graduate class during the spring if they want to do that, to take 1 or 2 graduate classes during the following summer if they want to do that. So conceivably, prior to the school year starting, that you're going to be, you could actually earn 3 to 9 graduate credit hours in kind of a traditional scenario there based on this timeline.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
And
do you have
they
examples of people doing that? Like, is that a thing that's happened as a result of this?
Absolutely. Once this, whole thing came into play, we saw an uptick in the number of transcripts that our partners were submitting, because really they just wanted to know, well, how close am I? How far away am I from being able to, to be qualified outright? And so another note that I'll add here is that we had in the spring, we like to wrap up this process in the fall, because in the
Mm-hmm.
spring we do an incoming faculty orientation that they all have to attend if they want to
Cool.
teach. And so they need to declare to us at that point if they're interested in going. So there's still quite a bit of conversation that happens after October throughout the
Mm-hmm.
fall semester. Quite a bit of conversation is happening so that they can determine if that's what they want to do, because they had to let us know beginning of spring if they're going to commit to that and if they're going to attend our College Now faculty orientation, which is mandatory. It is not optional. They have to attend that faculty orientation, or else they won't be even conditionally approved to teach in the upcoming academic year. And that faculty orientation is a critical piece for them, because we give them an overview of the program in one session. The second session, they meet directly with their department. So they meet with the
Mm-hmm.
dean, they meet with any applicable faculty. They
Mm-hmm.
start talking about curriculum development and syllabi completion and things of that nature. So they start getting those supports right away. So the timeline is advanced such that we have enough time to support them.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That all makes sense, and it's great that those supports are in place. Do you want to walk us through? I mean, I've been lucky enough to see the forms and see the iterations and how this has changed and evolved. Do you want to walk us through? Do you want me to click on some of the other versions of this form? Which one would you like me to go to next?
Sure. So everybody saw this is just our first attempt at this form is just that we were acknowledging, okay, something is happening here. We didn't know what to do with this form. We didn't know how to make it. We just said, we need to acknowledge that something is happening. There's a qualifying condition that needs to be on our radar. So this was our simple first form. If you want to click on the second form,
sure.
The rest of 2.5 and 2.5E are all pretty much the same, but this is our second iteration of the form where we started to get a little bit more fancy here in how we laid things out. I love forms. Anybody that knows me knows that I love process and I love forms, okay? And so I use Adobe Acrobat Pro that lets me actually make these fillable forms and customize the forms. And I think one of the cool things about that is I'm able to pretty much make it whatever we want it to be, right? Make it, you know, fulfill our needs. So again, it's the same, it contains the same type of information, but I cleaned up the language a little bit here. You notice that the qualifying condition, it's not as wordy as it was on the first form. Again, we were feeling our way, you know, we were just trying to figure out now what's happening, who's qualifying for what. We streamlined that language just a little bit more once you get to form 2. And then we changed something subtle here is that we changed the deadline for them to submit their, show their progress, demonstrate their progress to September 30th to mirror our annual course request deadline, right? So before it was August 15th, just because we were throwing darts in the dark. August 15th, that's usually the beginning of a semester. We're like, okay, demonstrate your progress by then, you know, we'll be good to go. We quickly realized that we need to roll that right into our annual course request process. And so that changed to September 30th. We also on this form noted too that they have 3 years from the effective date. And so we thought, oh, well, perhaps we should indicate a start term and an end term just so we're clear internally as well as with our partners on, okay, we're gonna let you start here, but by this particular term, you need to have, you know, completed what you agreed to or else you won't be eligible to teach, you won't be allowed to teach because we're gonna allow them to teach as long as they're demonstrating progress towards completion. So that's a subtle difference between version 1 and version 2. If we swing over to 2.5 quickly, I want to be mindful of your time, Jason.
I'm just going to bring up one important thing here, and some of this is my background as a school administrator coming out. It is important to note to everybody the signatures here for the teacher themselves, a high school administrator, and an administrator from the community college. And so what I think you've got there is a situation where it's not just the teacher going directly to the community college. The high school administrators there, they're not going to get caught out and be surprised 3 years down the line if this person hasn't done their stuff because they're part of that ongoing process and they need to be for planning purposes. So anyhow, there we go on to 2.5. Sorry about that.
No, that was a really good note and really because there are 3 levels of eyes on it, right? The instructor's eyes on it, their administrator's eyes on it, and again, our administrative, you know, eyes on it, which is necessary if we're going to be tracking someone towards completion or multiple instructors towards completion over spans of 3 years, right?
Yep.
So we get to this PD Plan 2.5, and we got even fancier by adding another page here. So this first page is exactly the same as the one you saw, but we decided that it would be best both internally and externally if we went ahead and had an audit form so that everybody's clear, because, you know, there started to be some interesting conversations about what counted, what didn't count, who was looking at what transcript. And so we said that we needed to be crystal clear here. We wanted the partner to know, we wanted the instructor to know, here are the courses, here are the graduate level courses that we're counting. Not only externally though, Jason, we ran up on a situation where we had turnover, right? Where we had an academic administrator who left and who had done some approvals, and then the new one came in and was like, now what was happening, right? So again, we wanted to pretty much over communicate. And by then we started to see pretty a steady trickle of it, right? Initially we had like maybe 1, maybe 2, but then over time, we started to see a steady trickle of this, which pretty much informed our improvement process, right? We had to make those adjustments to make it, you know, pretty easy for us to go right into a document and realize exactly where we were, and what needed to happen next. So this audit form got added in into the 2.5 version, and it's clear on when the audit happened. It's clear on who did it, what credit hours were counted, what the remaining credit hours are, whether or not the degree was conferred or not, and how many more audits that person could anticipate having.
Awesome. Awesome.
Another a cool note about this form, Jason, and you don't have to do it, is that in Adobe Acrobat Pro, I was able to link certain fields. So like if you click in the high school, if you download the form and you click on the high school in the top form, page 1, it'll pre-populate that in page 2. Now I hope it does it in this
It may not do it here. It may not do it here in Edge, but so let's do Normal Community High School.
And so anything you fill out there, it should be populated.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Very
so
nice.
approved courses, start term, end term. Because I didn't want to make this form cumbersome. I'm not filling it out. I just completed this form for our academic administrators to be able to use. But I didn't want it to be redundant. But I did think that that information needed to be on both parts of the form. But there was no need for us to have to enter that every time. So those forms will pre-populate to page 2.
And what's great about this is if by audit date number 1, someone has completed everything they needed to, there's that off ramp right there with the plan complete box, and it's all self-contained. So I don't have to take 3 years to get something done if I can get it done within 1 year.
Absolutely. Yep. So if you want to go quickly to 2.5E, which again, this first page is going to be actually, I think this is where we might have changed the first page, because we were moving away. Scroll down for me. Yeah, see, before that signature section, you saw that there was a space. We were used to people being in the physical locations together. The instructor and principals or curriculum directors were typically, right? And then even on our end, our administrators were all over the place. Well, who's gonna sign this, and who's where, and what have you. So this is the current, from the prior academic year, this is how we wrapped up these, because we needed them to at least affirm that they saw the document and that they agreed to the terms. And so I quickly put out a little affirmation form for them to submit and complete online. Yep, perfect. So the high school administrators would go here and they would select their role. They would select their partner, who they were, and they'll select their role as principal, assistant principal, director, or other type of administrator. And then that form will come in. Did you read the guidelines? Yes. Did you get that, affirmation? Yes. Are we good to go? Yes. Yep. So we'll have all different types of, forms. And this is our standard MOA form that you're completing now. But then if you click on, go over to the left, dual credit faculty. That'll get us, that's okay. There we go. That'll get us to the right form. Again, I love forms. So PD plan agreements is where I want you to go. This will give you a good look at what that form looks like, right? So same type of thing, but it has the administrator, it has the instructor, it's gonna have them put their name in, and then we just want them to click yes there to acknowledge, in fact, that they received the form and that they agree to the terms. And so it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple process, but saying, yes, awesome. I agree to this and I wanna persist.
This is very slick, very, very, very slick. So let me go back. I have to use the back button here to get back. So, and then page 2 of this form is identical.
It is. So we're still just tracking them right along because we want to be clear.
This section was changed due to the reality of trying to get signatures in the pandemic.
Absolutely. Yeah. We didn't want anybody trying to print a form, sign it. Now you've got to scan it, and then imagine what the scanned copy would look like by the time you get back to my office.
Three copies later by the time it comes to you, right? And people are taking it with their phone in their kitchen, and it's dark and everything else.
Exactly.
That's a great point. So yeah, very smooth. And then we get to the final version of this form, or I shouldn't say final, the most recent, I suppose. Is that right?
That is correct, because what I have found out is that this document is very much alive. It is moving, it is breathing. And so I never know when we might have to make adjustments. Now, this is going to be pretty much the same type of thing. I am just using a different mode or medium, if you will, for this. So, as I mentioned earlier, we use Google Drive to communicate with our partners, and so that's what they're accustomed to. So at the point where I need to be making sure that they have the most recent version of a document, I needed to convert this particular form, because it is active, because it is alive. I needed to make sure that they had access to the most current iteration of that form at all times by storing it right in their Google Drive hub. So all I did was take the same format, convert it into a Google Sheet, really, and make it look like a form. And so we have access to that, and they have access to that. So they can see every time that it's updated or what have you, they have awesome. The current iteration of that form. So it's the same type of situation. It's just, I just changed it over to make sure that we're able to communicate with them in real time. And so these are the forms that they're going to start seeing. Again, our course selection process window closes today. And so over the next couple of weeks, this is what we'll be doing at Heartland. Our academic administrators will be reviewing all the requests from our 17 high schools. My office will be making sure that all of the documentation is current and correct.
Awesome. This is fantastic. I have one last question, and then if you want to offer any final thoughts, please feel free to do so. But do you have any tips either for community college administrators or for folks on the school district side of things about having really strong partnerships across community colleges and school districts? I mean, you've relied on process, you've relied on the face-to-face meeting when we were in a position to have more face-to-face meetings with your annual partnership meeting, and then the support of the individual follow-ups. But that idea of really partnering is embedded actually in law in Illinois as well as in rules, whether it's dual credit or transitional math or transitional English now. One of the things that's a hallmark of all of those is that there's this expectation around the community college and the school districts coming together and working as a team across institutions. So do you have any tips for things that help make that go really well?
I, again, want to be respectful of your time. So I just have one main tip that I think lends itself to everything else. Keep the main thing the main thing. The success of the students. If we can keep the main thing, I'm 100% confident that we can work out the nuances of everything else. It's when we take our eye off the centerpiece, which again should be the students. What are we doing for our students? How are we serving them, and how could we be serving them better? And I mean all students. That is what should inform our conversations. That is the heartbeat really of our partnership. So that's my only thing, is keep the main thing the main thing. Realize that, you know, the students, they thrive when we're working better together. We're all better, you know, when we're working together.
There probably aren't more true words that you could speak today. So Alauna, I want to thank you for not only your time today and everything you shared, but all the work that you're doing down there in Bloomington Normal. I say down there, up there for certain people watching this video. So in our great state of Illinois. And it has been a real treat on my end. So thank you so much for sharing.
Jason, I can't thank you enough for the invitation. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks again to everybody for watching. This is part of a whole series of videos from our Fall 2020 P20 Network meeting. There is a link to subscribe to our newsletter in the YouTube description if you've ended up from somewhere else. And at the end of the video, you'll see our website address, our Twitter handle, and again, the link for our newsletter. So thanks again to Alauna and to everybody at Heartland and the Heartland Community College area school districts, and to those of you who watched. Have a great day.